Longtime friend Ghislaine Maxwell has pleaded not guilty during a bail hearing in New York. The 58-year-old British socialite has been charged with 6 counts of sex trafficking and perjury in relation to her relationship with paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. That's it for now. More in an hour.
News Talk Weather.
Thanks to the AA. For great value van insurance, go online to theaa.ie.
Persistent rain across Ulster, Leinster and Connacht, with patchier rain elsewhere. The heaviest will clear to the east, with some bright spells developing in the southwest. It's unseasonably cool, with top temperatures of 13 to 17 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The News Round on Off the Ball.
With Gillette, we don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette, made of what matters.
This is News Talk.
Hello there, you're very welcome along. As always, another evening, another Premier League game. Tonight is Chelsea against officially doomed Norwich City. We will check in with Pat Nevin on the Champions League race at 7:30. And Pat, as I mentioned there before the news, not a big fan of financial fair play generally, so we'll chat to him about all the goings on in the world of football come 7:30. Lizzie Lee is with us from 8 o'clock. She's from Cork, as I'm sure you know. She ran the marathon in Rio 2016, now 40 years of age, is not ruling out going for Tokyo, and she's going to join us because the Dublin Marathon is going to go virtual in the October bank holiday weekend where it usually takes place. We'll talk to her about that. We'll have Sarah Rowe on the show as well, and Dan McDonnell as well on the football show, plus some Paul Rouse. He was on OTBAM this morning talking the Jack Charlton era, and we'll bring you some of what Paul Rouse had to say, always worth listening to. 53106 is the text number. We are at Off the Ball. Richie McCormack, as ever, here with the news of the day. Hello.
Howdy, Joe.
And this time, 24 hours ago, listeners, we brought you President Michael D. Higgins. I am happy to say that the level of prestige, insight and quality has not dropped an iota because Adrian Barry is here as well. Hello.
Apart from a little bit of height, I have nothing above that man, Joe, but I'm nevertheless delighted to be here.
It says on your underneath your name there on the screen, Dadcast member number 2, which begs the question, who is number 1? And I'm told there was a Dadcast happening today, was there?
There was. I'm not sure on the rankings, but I mean, I'm just happy to be, happy to be able to take my place, Joe, on the lineup. Is that the cliche? Yeah, there was Dadcast today for the first time in about, I'd say at least 2 months. So we've got a lot of stuff off our chest. I'm assuming it'll come your way whenever one of us is bothered to get it online, which could be any time, really, let's face it. But yeah, I can confirm a Dadcast happened today.
Like wounded soldiers coming in from the front, I'd say, with sharing war stories.
There's a little bit of that. It's been a lovely time to be a dad in a lot of ways. It's been a tough time in so many other ways.
Well, look, I have you in the top 4 Dadcast members. We'll say that much.
That's all that matters to me, John.
So Richie and I, obviously, this time last night touched on Jack Charlton. Do you want to give us a memory or a moment or something on Jack?
Hard to know what to say that hasn't already been said, isn't it? It's been so much conversation. It's been so lovely, actually, over the last few days to be like, we probably haven't indulged ourselves this much in that time since that time. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's been a really great, it's been brilliant listening and reading and watching and reminiscing about the years that were. Not much to offer that hasn't already been said. The main thing that stands out for me, I would have got into journalism post the Jack Charlton years, so would have had no experience up close and personal with the man whatsoever. Other than I was in the tunnel in 2015, the photographs have been doing the rounds during the week, and the brilliant video footage when he came out for that pre-match in the Ireland-England game at the Aviva Stadium. And it was people have spoken about the presence of the man, and even then when he was a little bit frail and a little bit uncertain on his feet, the presence of the man was incredible, and the awe that he was held in by, I think, primarily the Irish players, to be honest, that night. I do remember John O'Shea coming up to him. Do you know, it was a shame, I was thinking about it today, a shame that there wasn't a photographer or a camera crew capturing what was going on with him in the tunnel there, because there was a lot of certainly recognition on the Irish part. Like, John O'Shea was captain of the Ireland team that night and would have had an acute understanding of what Jack Charlton meant to the nation, and made it his business to stop and, I guess, introduce himself or share a few words. And you could see with all the Irish players that were milling around, it felt to me anyway as if there was a real recognition on their part of who this guy was. The only one that I saw really certainly spend any time with him on the English side in terms of the players, I think most of them, it seemed to me, didn't. I remember thinking that sure they don't really know who this guy is. But I do remember Wayne Rooney stopping, and I'm fairly certain from recollection he referred to him as Mr. Charlton, and would obviously, given his own club history, Wayne Rooney having acute presence of the Charlton family, spent a little bit of time having a conversation with him before the game. But yeah, it was incredible. He was quite moved by the whole occasion before he even went out on the pitch that night. But I mean, in hindsight now, what a brilliant thing to have done for the man at that time of his life.
Yeah, that's the halftime where he puts his two hands up on his cheeks and the emotion hits him, isn't it?
Yeah. It was actually before the game. I had to remind myself of it today. It was actually came out. That was exactly it. He seemed to be hit almost by the wall of appreciation that poured from the stands. Like, he has become his name has become a byword for a time and place in our lives and in our for more than a generation of people. The people who weren't around, who've no understanding of what it was that was going on at the time, know about Jack Charlton, and that's the biggest tribute you can pay to the man.
Yeah, nice memory. Graham has texted in, lads. I'll put this to you, Richie. Thoughts on ITV ditching Clive?
Did you watch the video?
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking, that.
Very
like
raw.
It's heartbreaking because he mentions in it, and that's, the raw is exactly it. Like, he mentions in it that he's known for about 2 or 3 weeks of their decision, but I guess once he's confronted with the very public reality of it, it's a difficult thing for him to swallow. Especially as there's no need for them to do this now. Like, as he mentions in the video, they would have been, a week removed from the Euro 2020 final, of which Clive probably would have commentated on for ITV. With all due respect to his replacement, Sam Matterface, it's not as if it's an upgrade. Fairly nondescript commentator, seems a nice enough fella, but it's not as if Anthony could you could pin on him. But I think Clive's been very, very harshly done by here, specifically because it's not just the nostalgia act. And I know a lot of people with commentators are pretty happy to trot out their favourite lines, and the United 99 final and maybe Gerrard in 2005 are some of the memories that people might remember this evening listening in. But from listening to his stuff on Premier Sports and even on ITV in recent years, Clive's still very much on top of his game. Clive's still on top of the product. The voice is still there. The eyes are still there. I don't see there's any reason why ITV are really taking this decision.
Totally agree. I mean, I'd have Clive Tyldesley right up there. I think he's great. I don't understand either. Because even Tyldesley was saying he'd had people ringing him saying, are you unwell behind the scenes, or have you done something? Has something gone on here? Explain what's happened here. He's only 65. He's quite a young 65, I would have said.
Yeah, like as I mentioned, all the faculty's still there. The voice is still pristine as it ever was 20 years ago. His eyes are still there. He can still call a game, he can still read a game, he can still interact pretty well with a commentator. He can, I'm sure, sell all that ITV want to sell during the middle of a commentary as well. So I really just don't see why this is happening. It seems they could have gone about this quietly, but they seemed to do it quite publicly, which I don't think benefits Clive or indeed ITV coming out of this in the long run either. And I guess in the long run either his replacement, because it colours everybody bar Clive a pretty bad light.
Yeah. Well, naturally, when I heard that Richard Keys had blogged about the situation, I stopped what I was doing and I cleared the decks and I made a fresh cup of coffee and I said, wonderful. The man does not blog enough for me. The headline, now this is the day that Clive Tyldesley has tearfully told people he's lost his job. The headline on Richard Keys' blog today is, come on, Clive, ... And he's like the lack of sympathy. He starts off, just for a minute I thought something really serious had happened. There was my mate, Clive Tyldesley, sitting at what looked like his breakfast table with a glorious backdrop of green grass and fir trees, full of emotion. What was he about to tell us? Was somebody in the family a COVID victim? Did he have a terminal illness? No, it was worse than that. He was being replaced as ITV's lead commentator. Not sacked, replaced. He's kept on as number 2. And he goes on to say later on, try leaving a company for good. It's like, ultimately, it's about Richard Keys. Ultimately, it's about Richard Keys. Watch that company drip-feed nonsense to the media and then call in your prospective employee at TalkSport to threaten them with financial penalties if they continue with their plans to employ you, and so on. I mentioned that only because I was too emotional about my decision to leave Sky. He says, this is different. This is a moving and important piece in the chessboard, not having it taken. Just moving on. You're still on the board, Clive. So there we go. Richard Keys took. It's one of the great blogs. Adrian Barry, don't shake your head at me. It's one of the greats.
I am. You're filling me with a will to go and look at Richard Keys' blog. I have to say, which is concerning. The glorious backdrop, like Clive Tyldesley just appears to live in a house the same as all the rest of us, with a fairly smallish garden and a couple of like a glorious backdrop. What are you on about? I don't know. Listen, Richard Keys is a law unto himself, but it is a bit of a odd one, isn't it? I presume he'll just go and like he's not going to get the England games anywhere else. I don't think, but. Like, and he's obviously still got a job, as Richard Keys has pointed out. Let's quote him again. But I presume just like there'd be no shortage of takers.
I would tend to agree. Like, I don't really know what the number 2 on ITV does. You know, England games seem to be the main attraction. Bit of Champions League highlights here or there. Maybe I can't even remember. I don't get ITV as much on the channels at the moment. But yeah, I wonder, do Sky or BT swoop in?
I'd assume so. Yeah, I'd be a bit like Richie in that. I would have listened to a bit of Sam Matterface, and I would say he's grand. Like, I don't want to be disparaging towards him. It's a tough gig.
Yeah.
But like Clive Tyldesley, like it's not, a
big name. So, well, that's gone on today. Let's get to the rest of the afternoon's news. Kick off the news round with thanks to Gillette. We don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette, made of what matters. Richie, where are you starting?
We'll start with tonight's game at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea manager Frank Lampard calling on his side to be ruthless tonight. They welcome relegated Norwich to the Bridge, knowing a win can open up a 4-point gap between themselves and Manchester United. That after Michael Obafemi's late goal denied Manchester United all 3 points at Old Trafford last night. Kick-off at Stamford Bridge is at 8:15. West Brom, meanwhile, have missed the chance to go top of the Championship this evening. They've been held to a goalless draw at the Hawthorns by third-placed Fulham. And quite a story developing at the DW tonight. We know about Wigan and their descent into administration. What will come with that when the table is all done and dusted is a 14-point penalty. That 14-point penalty might well become redundant. At the moment, they lead Hull by 7-0. They were 7-0 up at half-time, were Wigan, and it continues to be the score 10 minutes into the second half. Reading and Middlesbrough, they are at a goal apiece, also 10 minutes into the second period at the Madejski. Among the 7:45 starts this evening, playoff hopefuls Cardiff meet Derby at the Cardiff City Stadium.
There's a text in here saying, it's not the end of the world, Clive, although I know it feels like it right now. It's just the end of an era. Sam is a good call. I'm joking. That's also from Richard Keys' blog.
This could be nightly slot.
Oh, dear. Oh, listen, if he wrote more blogs, I would be there. I would be there. Where are we going next, Richie?
We'll go to James McClean. He's asked why his Republic of Ireland colleagues have not shown him public support over the discrimination he has received. The Derry native took to Facebook last night to query why he hasn't got the same level of backing that has been given towards the Black Lives Matter campaign. McClean strongly condemned racial abuse directed towards his Irish teammate David McGoldrick and also to Crystal Palace winger Wilfred Zaha in recent days. And speaking to TalkSport this morning, McClean concedes things like his balaclava stunt online could have been better thought through, but he claims he's been deprived of adequate support.
Before I've done anything, I've taken years of abuse. So you only have a certain amount of, so much you can take, really. And the thing on lockdown, I posted about the balaclava, and, it was supposed to be aimed in the light of how I'm perceived anyway. So I thought, you know what, I have people perceive me this way anyway, so I might as well try and have it was supposed to be a joke, and look, it didn't go down as a joke, and I understand the offence it might have caused some people. Look, like I said, I'm no angel, so and I take responsibility for that, but look, it was well highlighted, but that's the point I'm trying to make. That was highlighted, but where is the previous 8 years of abuse? Where's that been highlighted? It hasn't been. It's almost brushed under the carpet.
Did anyone hear the full interview? I didn't get a chance. It was on TalkSport this morning, no.
No. Yeah, I was listening to it there earlier on this afternoon. Again, it plays out pretty much like the Facebook post. He's essentially just wondering why he hasn't received the same level of public support that's been given to other anti-discrimination campaigns in recent weeks. I don't know, like, he concedes, obviously, as we heard there, that the balaclava stunt and that some of the things he's done are not best thought out plans on his behalf, but he also says that a lot of them, particularly the balaclava one, are in retaliation, and in I guess the kind of light of him already having received abuse and probably perceiving that he will receive abuse further down the line anyway. I'm just not sure how wise it is coming out on Facebook and asking for public sympathy for your cause, regardless of what that might be, in that way, particularly pitching it. And I know he's not, but it comes across as if he's pitching it against the Black Lives Matter campaign, which is I don't know, it just seems a bit off to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know how much support he has or hasn't received. I mean, not a great deal, you would suspect. And he's been very unfortunate that the poppy thing has really blown up in his era. You know, everybody wears the poppy, and suddenly he stood out a lot, Adrian, by not wearing the poppy. Things like the balaclava thing was crazy. Crazy. Such a bad move. That equally doesn't make the abuse he receives all right. Like, I think he was talking about getting horrific messages and hoping your kids die of COVID and all of this kind of stuff. And there are idiots out there. The truth is, it probably isn't taken as seriously as racism, you know, against a black player in the UK. I mean, there's an element of, it's not as serious, I would suspect, is how he feels, and that's how it's treated as a player getting racist messages into their DMs. I don't think it's going to stop. I think it's going to keep coming his way, and he probably is unfortunately going to have to learn how to live with it and deal with it, which is not fair, not right, but that is his reality, I think.
Yeah, it's like, I hardly feel even qualified to talk on the topic, if I'm being honest, but I do agree with the point about, like, the timing of it. It seems slightly odd that he seems to be pitting his own grievance, justified grievance, I think, by all accounts, against Black Lives Matter. And he's specifically saying about the support that's been there from football and from, let's even say, from his Ireland teammates in terms of his own cause. Like, there'll be a lot of those teammates, even within the Ireland squad, not to mention across the Premier League or football generally, who'll just have no understanding of what it is he's talking about. In a way that we're only now beginning to understand with Black Lives Matter, about how deeply rooted racism is in society across the planet. So, I mean, that may go some slight way to explain why the same levels of support haven't been there. Like, I mean, I would say to him, what has he done sort of within football or within the teams or squads he's been involved in to try and explain the depth of hatred towards him, for example, you know? I mean, I don't know. He may have done plenty, but that might be a starting point. It's a strange positioning, but I mean, you'd have to have sympathy for the guy. Like, he's been on with us in the last 6 months talking about the depth of it, and it can't be easy.
No. Where are we going next, Richie?
The GAA's Fergal McGill says it doesn't make sense at the moment to open indoor club facilities. Dressing rooms and gyms remain closed while clubs have returned to training in recent weeks. And the Director of Player, Club and Games Administration says keeping indoor facilities should lessens the risk of COVID-19 infection. He says just remaining outdoors means you're 19 times less likely to be infected. Handball alleys will be allowed to reopen on Monday, provided users adhere to special guidelines, while club bars that don't serve food can also reopen as of next week. Now, a bad day for football and a disgrace is how two of the leading Premier League managers have described the quashing of Manchester City's European ban. They escaped with just a €10 million fine from the Court of Arbitration for Sport yesterday, and neither Jose Mourinho nor first Jurgen Klopp are in favour of the CAS ruling.
I don't wish anybody anything bad. And as I said, I'm happy that City can play Champions League, but I don't think it was a good day for football yesterday, to be honest, just because I think FFP is a good idea. It's there for protecting teams, protecting the competition. That was the idea in the start. It's not up to me to judge this, and I don't. I only think this FFP frame, which is for all of us, we all should stick to. That's all I can say. That's what rules are for, and I really hope that FFP stays, just because it gives at least kind of like borders where you can go to but not over it, and I think that's good for football.
Is a disgraceful decision because if Man City is not guilty of it, I think to be punished with some million is a disgrace as a decision. If you are not guilty, you are not punished. By the other way, if they are guilty, you should be banned. So it's also a disgraceful decision. So in any case, the decision is a disaster.
I'm not sure that logic totally holds. Like, they were fined for not cooperating with the investigations, so that is, they're not mutually exclusive. But I mean, so Pep and Manchester City are coming out, Adrian, and they're saying this shows that everything that people have said about the club wasn't true. That's not really what this case has found or shown. I mean, CAS have said that it's a statute of limitations issue. The 5 years had passed. Therefore, even if UEFA has found that you breached rules in 2014, we can't enforce any punishment. The 5 years have been exceeded. It's a technicality, yes, but that's just the situation. Doesn't necessarily mean that what UEFA said City were doing was not happening. I mean, it clearly was happening. So Pep saying, well, this proves nothing they've said is what's been going on at the club. I don't think that's a fair reflection. But Manchester City are going to have their own truth on this. Yeah,
the Jose comments are bizarre, aren't they? Like, he doesn't
make sense.
Jesus, read an article about it. Pep, if I'm right to say that, like, CAS haven't yet, they've said they'll come out in a few days and give the full explanation. Is that right? So we don't even know yet the full details. Is that right?
It's pretty much just a statement as things stand,
So like, in that context, Pep coming out and saying, you should apologise to us. Like, hold on now, Pep. Hold on here a second. Like, wait for the full details of what's to come out before you jump up on your high horse and start claiming the moral high ground on this. Like, you know, they've been already critical of Manchester City's cooperation, and that's the nature of the whatever fine it is that remains. I don't think it's really a time to be pontificating about what a morally full club that you have.
Conor McKenna, Rich?
Yeah, he hasn't ruled out the possibility of lining out with Tyrone in 2021. McKenna is contracted with the AFL side, the Essendon Bombers, through the 2021 campaign down under, but he told teamtalkmag.com that he will make a decision on his future by the end of the year. Graham Cummins has returned to Cork City after a brief spell at Waterford. He'll be playing at centre half, though, at Turner's Cross, having previously lined out as a striker for Neil Fenn's side. The Leesiders have also extended the loan deal of QPR's Deshane Dowling, and there's friendly action here at home tonight as well, with reigning league champions Dundalk taking on Bohemians. The annual meeting on the Strand at Laytown has been cancelled. The card is due to take place on Tuesday, September 1st. However, Laytown race organisers say there were too many concerns regarding health and safety surrounding the meeting.
Daily Mount then?
Yeah, it's become the first League of Ireland ground to honour the late Jack Charlton. A mural of the former Republic of Ireland boss has been painted at the Phibsborough ground. Charlton's Ireland played on 3 occasions at Dalymount, including Dennis Irwin's debut against Morocco in 1990. That was their first outing since the World Cup quarter-final defeat to Italy. And also that 5-0 win over Israel in 1987, which included a debut hat-trick for David Kelly. Meanwhile, FIFA President Gianni Infantino has paid tribute to Charlton today. He wrote that words seem inadequate to express the sadness we feel for this loss affecting Irish football.
Irish football?
Yep.
Does Gianni Infantino know he won a World Cup with England?
I'd say he must have written a letter to the FA with, right, you know, when he sends out his,
that's it, yeah.
When his PA is in there and he's dictating out what he should write, he's right, that's that done. Now, onto the FA or whatever way around.
Okay. So they got a letter as well saying that they feel sadness for this loss affecting English football.
And no mention of Ireland, sure.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. Last story, Rich.
Yeah, 7 members of Ireland's under-20 rugby squad have today signed academy contracts with Leinster. Trinity duo Joe McCarthy and Max O'Reilly. UCD's Niall Comerford and Sean O'Brien. Another one, Clontarf's Andrew Smith and Alex Soroka. And Old Belvedere's John McKee were all part of the Ireland team who won their opening 3 games in this year's under-20 Six Nations before COVID-19 called a halt to proceedings.
Okay, that is your news round for this evening. Richie, as ever, thank you. Adrian Barry, every bit as good as Michael D. Higgins last night, and thank you as well.
Thanks, lads.
Cheers. We'll take a short ad break. Pat Nevin is with us in just a moment, and as mentioned at the top of the show, Lizzie Lee, 2016 marathon runner, with us after 8 o'clock.
The News Round on Off the Ball.
With Gillette, we don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette, made of what matters.
We all know the importance of wearing masks to protect against COVID-19. At Windsor Pharma, our Tytex mask range helps reduce the risk of airborne and hand-to-face contamination. Made from soft, seamless material